This is a conversation between friends.
None of what is said here should be taken as legal advice.
We are not experts in any way.
Take what resonates and leave the rest. There we are. What's going on, everybody? So, weekend edition of the show. No podcast today. Now we're just doing a little reaction to some clips around the internet. This one in particular is about this guy called David Goggins. We spoke briefly about him in the podcast before about his book, You Can't Hurt Me. So he's a former Navy SEAL, and now he's kind of just basically going around being a motivational personality, I suppose. Pretty interesting stuff. He usually has pretty crazy, or just he's a crazy person, I would say, and his ideas and the way he goes about living his life it's hardcore. He usually lives life on the hardest difficulty possible, just because that's where he finds his strength. So you're going to get to see that here with some of the clips that we found. And yeah.
All right, so let's just get the show on the road. Let me just play the audio for you guys. And 3, 2, go.
The motivation when people are losing, all these people who come out here and talk about how great they are, and I see it all the time, makes me sick, man. Get real with yourself. People cannot relate to you, man. You are unfucking relatable when you come out here and say, hey, man, I'm the baddest motherfucker to ever live. Okay, great. Well, what am I going to learn from you? You learn from people who are willing to tell you, this is where I started from. This is how much I fell on my fucking ass. This is how bad I used to really be. I still have those moments because why? You're human. We're all jacked up, man. We're all jacked up. And that's what makes my story relatable. I'm willing to let you in to see I'm decently successful now. But I didn't come out like this, man. I didn't come out. That's the story. Is you have to give people just a little bit of hope. There's no hope when they see greatness in you everywhere. You have to be able to get yourself down to a level of check it out, man. There's hope for you. That's all I'm trying to give you. Just a little bit.
Interesting. Okay. I think that's pretty much it for that video.
Mm-hmm.
You're just working out.
No, it's just a working out clip. So yeah, I would
Okay.
The reason why we're not doing the video this time is just because last time it was really just static and laggy and it didn't look too well. So right now we'll just go in with the audio clips just because they're short videos. There's not really much to see because the guy's just talking anyways. But yeah, What do you think?
So he talked about success. Success is one of those things is, in my opinion, very controversial. Because I feel like it's rather than success being something that you can see it's more like a mindset. You know what I mean? That's why I always say, like, when somebody tells me, like, oh, I want to be successful, I feel like if you want to be successful, that means that you are not successful at the moment. And that's something that, like, I daily try to, even last night, I was like thinking about it, like, you know, what success means. It's not going to be the same for me that it is for you. So everybody has their own definition of success. But what I think is that we are successful in some aspect of our lives already. And we should, like, move forward with that mindset that we are already successful in life. Because if you always chasing success, or you always want to be successful, it's like, you know, it's running away. But if you are already successful, then you're already successful. And one thing that I kind of like, how I can put it, helps you to build is that the mindset that you don't need anything else. And you don't need, like, external rewards. They come, of course, they will come sooner or later. But if you have that successful mindset, you're always going to be pushing a little bit further because you're challenging yourself rather than chasing something that it's not there yet. Because if you think about it, like, we're not the same persons that we were a year or 5 years ago. So we have reached success already. And as he mentioned, not everybody's going to be successful in the same way. So your success is going to be different than mine. And but yeah, so I think that kind of covers all my intake from this video. So I sort of agree with him that, you know, like when some people tells me like, oh, I'm successful because I did this and that or whatever, or like even like now is like we mentioned, social media has a huge kind of impact or kind of influence on like the way that we start thinking of what we start thinking what success means, you know. So if we weren't able to see that how people have their Lamborghinis or big houses, we wouldn't know that was that success that we want. But rather maybe for you, for example, for me, is like traveling around and experiencing new things. That's my success. And I have been pretty good at that so far. But yeah, what do you think?
So yeah, so the way he was going about kind of, you know, articulating the point is that these motivational people that you see online usually have this aura of like, you know, they're successful and they were always successful, right? It's never them kind of telling you where they started from. It's always just, you know, they started from the bottom, now they're here. But like, what's the bottom? Because you never really got to see that journey. And rather than you kind of like giving that to people so that they have an idea of like where you started from, if hypothetically they're in a similar situation, then they have an aspiration to get to your level because you started from the same level as them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes what you end up seeing is just like the final product, right? You see the guy with the big house, with the nice cars, with the beautiful women, with the good clothing or the expensive clothing, the nice jewelry, et cetera, as opposed to seeing the person that started from, hypothetically, let's say he was working from his parents' house in the basement, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see this a lot with, I don't know if you ever saw the image of Amazon with Jeff Bezos
Jeff
working out of some
Bezos,
sort
yeah.
of garage or in a house, right? It was just like Amazon on a flyer, like this just white flag basically, and it was really really trashy. It wasn't really designed well. It was just, that was bare bones. That's where he started from. Literally nothing. He was working
Mm-hmm.
out of basically nothing, and then he's built an empire, right? So that's kind of an idea of like, hey, you need to show people that you started from humble beginnings as opposed to just you're just always been successful, and the reason why you're so successful now is because you're always meant to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
But that speaks to your point, right? You should feel like you're successful now as opposed to successful in the future once you achieve whatever the goal is. You know, there's a balance there too, right? Because sometimes you can become complacent with the idea of oh, I'm already successful, I don't really have to do anything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily the case.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's where I stand on that.
Okay, one point that you brought, it was that you know, starting the humble beginnings. I feel like not everybody's going to start at one point, at the same point. I mean, so like where I began is not going to be the same as yours or whoever is watching this video. Everybody is going to have a different story, and everybody is going to have a different meaning for success. So kind of like going back to Jeff Bezos, when where he started, he was very humble, right? On like the basement of his house. Now, no basement, the garage of his house. Now, he didn't know how successful he will become at that point. But if he didn't kind of had the mindset that he was already successful, and rather than be focusing a lot of time on, oh, I want to achieve this, I want to have this car, I want to have this business, I want to grow this huge worldwide, right? Rather than putting that as a priority, he was looking into what he had at the moment, like at present, say like, oh, how can I improve this? Or how can I maximize, you know, what I'm doing, like my profit. So maximize the people that I'm helping and of the products, because he just began with books when he started, and then he expanded to other different products. So he didn't, I feel like he, at the point, he didn't really have a clear vision that he was going to become the most millionaire the richest person in the world. But rather than he just focused on what he was doing, right? And there's like this photography or like this video that he was driving, I think it's a Honda, like a really trash car back in the days. And he was already a millionaire. He wasn't showing off. He wasn't, because he was concentrated rather than the profits there and showing off and buying the most expensive car that he could acquire. And he was focused more in the long term on his business and how he was helping the people reach and deliver those items that they needed. So I think success is going to be those topics that we can go back and forth because we are going to have different point of views on it. But if you're always chasing success, I feel like it's always running away from you. That's my mentality. That's what, and I always try to like just challenge myself. How can I improve rather than think that I need to be successful in order to achieve what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. Just improvement. How can I just improve upon what I'm doing and make it better? And again, if Jeff, Amazon started off as a book sharing platform, right, and eventually it's built out into this just ridiculous e-commerce company. But it didn't start off that way, and that's the thing. You can't really predict what the future brings. You kind of just have to take things accordingly as it comes and just try to continuously improve. And if opportunities present themselves, take them, expand, keep growing, just keep doing that. That doesn't necessarily mean you're always chasing success. You're just always chasing improvement, which is a different thing, right?
Right.
And then obviously at the end of the day, we're all going to the same place, which is the grave. Or
exactly.
If you get cremated, that's a different thing. But yeah, so just do that until eventually you end up ending this life.
Yeah, I mean, one goal that we all share is that of dying. So rich, poor, different races, different sexes, we all going to die. So I think the goal of
ultimate equalizer.
What's up?
So the ultimate equalizer is death. We can't.
Yep.
Nobody can escape that, or at least not yet.
Yeah, it's gonna come sooner or later, also. But let's leave that for another day. All right, so let's watch the second clip. So the second clip is titled "Physical Strength is Mental Strength." So let me just go ahead quickly and I will share the audio on my screen. And 3, 2, go.
To build this strength in your mind, do you think it had to be physical?
Yes, I really do.
You think for everybody?
Really yeah, I think almost for everybody. The mental aspect, everything in my life. So I had a learned disability that I talked about. My physical gave me the self-discipline, and that literally has carried me over to I can sit down and study what may take some people an hour to study. I have to sit down for maybe 10 hours to learn the same fucking shit. And that's very frustrating. So I always talk about running and swimming and all the stuff I did in the military and pull-up records and powerlifting, all these physical feats. Some of the hardest shit I do in my life is just learning. But I got that self-discipline from waking up at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning to go out in the cold weather, to get my run in, to get my lift in, to get my swim in, to do those things. It totally transfers over to my learning. It's that self-discipline you gain from feeling good about yourself by overcoming yourself on the physical aspect of life. And it transfers to your whole work ethic and everything you do comes from the physical aspect of life. I truly believe that. And the physical and the mental are all one. They are all tied into one, man.
Right. You can't learn how to dig deep and how to, overcome your toes getting all jacked up from running 200 miles. You can't learn these things without really going out and doing it.
All right, so you just go in. All right, I can start on this one because I have some. Well, let me stop this share. Okay. I can start on this one now. I don't necessarily agree with him. I don't necessarily agree that his statement that physical strength is mental strength, or physical, physical is necessarily directly correlated to mental strength. But I do agree that, it transfers. So whatever you do physically, for example, we talk about this on our podcast, that whatever you do, whether it's, on the fitness aspect of your life, or maybe just on the finance aspect of your life, or even on the personal development aspect of your life, they're going to
Foundations.
be,
It's foundational as well.
yes, our own foundations. They're going to be transferable skills. Like these are the soft skills. Like, for example, in any job, like some skills that you acquire at one job and you change the industry and you go to a different industry, a different company, those soft skills such as communication, such as discipline, such as patience, they're going to be transferable. They transfer, um, whether you're aware of it or not. But they're not necessarily connected. So they're completely different jobs. Physical and mental, they're completely two things in a way that you approach on how to grow in them. I do see where he's coming from when he says, he needed to build the discipline to go out there, work out, run, or whatever at like 4 a.m. in the morning or 5 a.m. in the morning. Like that takes a lot of discipline. And when it comes to like learning something, when it comes to studying, when it comes to picking up a new whatever it is that you studying at, it takes discipline because you need to be focused. But it's not gonna work out the same way that you work out at your body, because your body is more, there's such a thing that physical memory, that your body remembers and picks up things like quicker. So it's kind of similar to the mind, but they're not the same, in my opinion. What do you think?
So yeah, I mean, again, from his perspective, it's the fact that he has that learning disability, so it takes him forever to learn something.
Mm-hmm.
So it could literally, like that physical exertion that he puts his body through, can feel almost the same for his mental capacity because it just takes him so long. But for the average person, I wouldn't obviously necessarily say that that's going to be the case. You don't have to literally physically almost bring yourself to the point of death in order to, mentally be strong enough to learn a new subject or learn a new hobby, whatever the case might be. But you can take aspects of it, right? Because physical exertion does bring about things like discipline, consistency, and just overall pushing those limits that you think you might have, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're always pushing boundaries, especially when you're doing anything that's physically exerting. So to that end, it can only get so bad when it comes to just sitting down and learning new material, right? Like at worst, what it is just boring. It can just get really tedious and boring. But when you compare that to, physically exerting yourself with the way this guy does, where he literally runs like 200 miles for competitions, right? Like he literally spends almost a week running with like power naps in between in order to complete that run. And by the end of it, his like toenails are coming off his feet. His legs are completely bruised up. His joints are completely inflamed. So he has to get like this ridiculously long needle in order to extract fluid from his knees. And that hurts like a crazy shit. When you compare that to just sitting down and learning some new material, well, I mean, it doesn't even compare. So like, you shouldn't even be complaining about the fact that the subject is boring because you literally just went through hell in order to do that physical thing. So yeah, not necessarily saying you have to do that crazy of a physical feat, but once you start getting into that realm of pushing those limits and boundaries, you can start appreciating the fact that learning, it's brought us this far in society, right? We've learned so many things and we've built so many things from learning from from previous generations. You can appreciate it and understand that, it's never going to be as hard as doing things that are physically demanding.
Right, but there is such a thing as mental exhaustion, and that's when like you spend a lot of time studying or a lot of time using your mind. In like physical tiredness, you do have something similar that is mental tiredness, and so you should be aware that you need to give your brain a rest, because the brain is also a muscle in a sense. And that's why the more you practice a question, the more that you review a subject, it's you pretty much increasing the knowledge on the muscle. But it's a different approach. It definitely will be a different approach. And I understand that some people like they need a little bit more what's it called, like
Discipline.
enhancement. Well, more enhancement, like to different ways to learn, right? For example, some people need visuals, and some people read, some people listen. Everybody's going to have different approaches, and similar to like your body, like not everybody is going to be or work or lose fat or get strong the same way as mine or yours. Like it depends, right? So a similar approach, but they're not. I don't think you need to go through the same sort of exercises or to do the same thing in order for you to learn or pick up something. And yeah, but definitely, once again, it just transfers. Like everything in your life is going to be transferable. Once you have it, once you develop those soft skills, you can apply them in any areas of your life. It can be your relationships, it can be your academic. And as Randy mentioned, like learning has brought us to where we are as a society. And life is all about learning. Like I've always been saying this, college is not really a place to where they prepare you to be ready for the job, but more like it helps you build those habits to keep learning. Because once you get a job, once you get like a professional job, you always, or any job actually, you always are going to be on the constant learning process. And depending on how you build those habits on how to learn, then it will become more easier. So it's kind of like finding yourself and learning what works for you and what doesn't work for you. But yeah, so learning is important, but there are people who, are very smart, like super smart. They know their stuff, and they're not necessarily the most fit people out there.
Right, for sure. So yeah, pretty much concludes. I would just say one last thing. If you are somebody that does struggle with like learning and having issues with that, and you think it might be an issue, just like having no discipline or being inconsistent, then probably get on a really, good workout program and try to build that discipline from there. And again, if these skills are transferable, then that'll likely transfer over to your learning habits and things of that nature.
Absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, I think that covers those topics. Motivation, motivation to be successful. It's not really, I don't think it's necessarily there. It's more like how you're trying to improve yourself every day, because you're already successful in any ways of the aspect, in any ways actually.
You were born, you were successful, because that means you won that race in the beginning when you were sperm.
Oh yeah, ever since you were a fucking sperm, you're successful. Yeah, you're the champ.
You were the winner, bro.
Everybody were, actually. You put it that way. And when it comes to soft skills, they're transferable. So yeah, being disciplined on your workouts, working out, and being healthy overall, it's definitely going to show and going to affect in some other areas of your life as well. Cool. You have anything to add up to conclude?
No, that's about it, man.
Perfect. And we will see you Monday on our podcast. And if you only watch the Saturday episodes, I will see you next Saturday. All right.
Adios.
Adios.